Welcome to Fundraising Events. This is our first episode. And so during each episode, we're going to chat with an influencer in the event industry who's been instrumental in helping nonprofits raise more funds. Our goal is to help share helpful tips, tricks, and stories that will empower you to raise more with your future events. And now a little bit about our sponsor. Fundraising Events is sponsored by GiveSignup, RunSignup, your fundraising event technology experts. Next time you have a fundraising event, try GiveSignup, RunSignup. Whether it's a run, walk, ride, golf tournament, gala, or a fundraising campaign, raise more, save time easily with GiveSignup, RunSignup's purpose-built supporter engagement platform. Get started for free today at givesignup.org. And I'm Brian Jenkins, and now I want to welcome Tony Sapp. Welcome to Fundraising Events, Tony.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm very appreciative of your awesome mic. I can hear you incredibly well. So to start off, I know you very well, and I think everyone would like to learn a little bit about you and maybe a little background on you and how you got into events.
Yeah, of course. So I am the owner and operator of Negative Split Productions based out of Houston, Texas. I basically got my start just helping out with some local races as a volunteer coordinator or just general race crew. And then in 2014, decided to let's try my hand at race directing. Developed a series of running events, learned more about the business, and got basically built that business up to a point where I was ready to try something new, but still in the event space. So we sold our running events after reaching about 25,000 participants a year. And now I'm doing event services, race timing, race awards, event consulting, and I still own and operate what is now the world's largest active kids triathlon in the world. So that's how I spend most of my days.
Yeah. Well, your kids event is definitely something interesting. It's probably something to investigate since we're focusing on virtual races, but not the toughest idea to come up with is like, hey, a triathlon should be at a water park. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a fun race. That one's definitely I'd consider that since about 2016 when that event started, my marquee event, kind of the standard at which I put everything into that race, and that race is my baby. So that one's not going away anytime soon. It was obviously a tough year in 2020 with it being in May. There was no event, but we made it work, and we had about 400 kids participate in a virtual triathlon, and it went well. Everybody seemed to have a good time, and we're coming back in 2021 bigger and stronger. We have a 2-day event. I moved it to the late summer, early fall, and mid-September to kind of avoid all of this kind of gray area that we're in right now. So yeah, we're looking forward to another big race for that one this year.
That's great. So the reason that I wanted to get you on as our first guest is that virtual races were very popular in 2020. Many people are thinking about still doing virtual races in 2021, or as we talked about at many different points, hybrid races. The unique thing about you is that you actually did virtual races before people did virtual races. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So basically what this came from, it's funny because it was the kids triathlon that drove all of this, even though that race hasn't had a virtual component until this year. Back in 2016, we had registration open for our third race it was 2015. We had registration open for our third race in 2016. And then we were working on developing this kids triathlon at a new water park opening. And we finally got approval, but it fell on the same day as a race we already had registration open. They had about 100 to 125 people registered at that point. So I was kind of thinking of ways I could engage those people because we were going to move the date because I didn't want to pass on the chance to have the kids triathlon. So I was trying to think of ways I wouldn't lose those people, because those people were regular customers that were going to be completing the entire series. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to participate in the race, even if they couldn't be at the new date that we were going to be scheduling. So I was like, let's give this virtual race a try. So we added a virtual component. I emailed everybody. Most were fine with the new date. We had a few that could not make the new date, but we now had this new virtual component. So we said, the registration was open for that. And I noticed by around December timeframe, we started getting people registering for the virtual race because they wanted to complete the whole series, but they couldn't be at that specific race or, for whatever reason. So we, my business partner and I sat down and we talked and was like, well, let's give this a shot and let's add it to all the races and see what happens. within a year of having a virtual option, over 20% of our 20,000 registrations came from virtual. So it
That's incredible.
really, yeah, it really did a big, added a big chunk of registrations of people that we may not have gotten otherwise. So I kind of saw the power of what a virtual race can be in conjunction with a live event. And I was able to take that knowledge and the things I learned over the years of producing those events with the virtual events and turn that into basically a category of services that became that really blew up during the time of no events, once COVID really took off in early March last year.
So you think originally a lot of these people, because you offered a really nice series package, so you earned something for doing the whole series, that was what was driving the original virtual registrations?
Yes. Yeah. I think that it was people that, our first race in the series was always on New Year's Day. And that was that was just our thing. We had a race on New Year's Day. We had a race at Minute Maid Park, the home of the Houston Astros. We had some very unique venues and some big time places where we were putting on these races. But what if you're out of town on New Year's Day? Do you just miss out on the entire series because of that? No, you can still register and do it virtually and continue on with the rest of the series. So it was definitely a business decision at that point in offering it to, keeping the people in the flow and registering and keeping people eligible for the series, even as races passed. So, yeah, it all stemmed from that component of the series element, getting the medal display or earning, we did special edition pajama pants one year, just various prizes for completing all 5 events in the series.
So what type of feedback were you getting from these early virtual participants?
Well, at that time it was very little because it was virtual races existed. I didn't, there were other companies that were putting on virtual only events. But it was more, wow, I'm glad I can still participate in this event. I'm still, I can still be able to do it. I can still earn the shirt and the medal. I can still be on the way to collecting my series prizes. And so, it was a little rough at first because there were no great tools like, the RunSignup virtual and challenge platform available. You guys didn't even have the option for people to submit their own results at that point. So we just set up spreadsheets and Google Sheets and had, we tracked the information. We'd have people submit pictures of them completing the race, and they post them online on the event page or on Facebook. So overall, I'd say the reception was good. If you didn't want to do the race virtually, if you didn't believe that virtual races should be a thing, just don't register for it.
Right.
If you were really, really keen on trying to earn the series finisher stuff and had something going on a specific day or something came up at the last minute, there was an option available there that you can still do it. So it was really because it wasn't a forced thing where it was only virtual or only live. I think the people who were just appreciative of the opportunity to be able to have an option, and it actually served as a interesting mechanism to a transition we had in, I think it was December of 2017. We had a big storm come through Houston, and this was a few months after Harvey. So everybody's really nervous, about the flooding and everything. But so what we did is we just basically said, hey, if you want to transfer, if you're nervous about the flooding and don't want to come to the race tomorrow morning, transfer to virtual. This is an option available to you. We already had that built into the race. So there wasn't a big, trying to figure things out. It was already there. We had 1,700 people register for the live race, 800 of them transferred to the virtual race. The next day we had 900 people at absolutely gorgeous day, at the race site. So it was all, no major issues. But those 800 people that weren't quite sure they were going to want to do it, they had a thing there that they could do. And still, that was the last race in the series. So, a lot of them were trying to finish, that was the race to earn their prize. So yeah, it was good. It was good that we had that built in.
Yeah. So let's move on to now the pandemic has happened. And you're in the event industry and everybody stops. You now have a unique advantage because you actually understand how virtual races work and what they are and how to communicate and all these other things. So let's talk about how you started helping nonprofits who didn't understand this, and where your service came into that.
Right. So basically, what I did is I took all of that knowledge and experience and things I'd learned over those few years of putting on those virtual events, and packaged them all together. And then I leveraged additionally, I leveraged the relationships I developed with vendors from all over the countries to be able to provide medals, shirts, things that I could get at a lower cost because of the volume I was doing with the races that I had, and these long established relationships. So I kind of what the original intention was. It was just to be because there were no events going on, no races to time, no races that needed awards. That this was the expansion of the consulting side, helping people learn what a virtual race is, learn the technology that's available within the virtual race space when it comes to user submitted results or challenges and things like that, and then helping them on the execution side. Helping them. How do you communicate with participants? How often should you be emailing people? What kind of reminders should you be sending? When do you need to order shirts? When do you need to order medals? How do you ship out 1,000 race packages? Can you just walk into the post office with 1,000 packets and say, here you go? Not really. There's processes in place to do that stuff. So it was more, originally it was more meant to be on a consulting side, but what it became is basically me assistant race directing in a consulting role, helping all of these different nonprofits who had lost all of their fundraising capability. Basically, I mean, people were scared. They weren't spending any money. They weren't donating things. They still wanted to do stuff because they were at home. They were trying to stay busy, but donations stopped. Things, the thing, being able to put on galas and auctions and things like that, there just wasn't an opportunity. So this gave another outlet, another way for nonprofits to engage their followers, their previous people that were donating, or to get people to fundraise for them, which I think is really the most powerful tool, because now you're leveraging the network of thousands of people versus just individually trying to contact people.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, Tony had a form on his website that people could fill out, talk a little bit about their nonprofit and what they were trying to accomplish. And then Tony would set up a call with them and then walk them through everything. And then, as he said, using all the expertise and context that he had so that they could effortlessly pull off that virtual race.
Yeah. Yeah. And I dubbed it the turnkey virtual race services.
Yeah.
Because basically I could help races from start to finish, setting up registration all the way through the actual fulfillment, or individual pieces. I wasn't, and I was always very clear and upfront with people. I'm not a printer. I'm not a t-shirt printer. I don't have a metal factory in my backyard or a warehouse where I'm, creating this stuff. I'm leveraging relationships for all of this and just putting it together so it's a single point of contact across the board, making it an easy transition from doing all the different fundraising activities a nonprofit normally does to a live, absolute engagement opportunity that is a virtual race.
That's great. So you've worked with quite a number of virtual races. How many virtual races did you work with over the past year?
I added it up at the end of the year and I kind of stopped keeping count. By December 20, I launched the service in April 2020, and then as of the end of December 2020, I was at about 96 events.
Wow.
Since then, I've worked with about 15 to 20 more that are going
Definitely
strong.
over 100.
Yeah, I'm easily over 100 now. In the year that it's been just over a year.
That's actually really impressive. I did not realize it was that many. I knew it was a lot, but I did not realize it was that many.
Yeah, and not all of them were setting up registration. Not all of them were ordering race items. Not all of them were shipping and fulfillment. Some people would simply call me and say, "Hey, how do I, how can I ship this many things?" And I'm very upfront and honest with you. I'll tell them what the processes I use if they want to know. If they want to try and do it themselves. But then I offer that I can do it for them without them having to go through the steps as well. So there's some. It's not always about how much money can I make. It's about what can I do to make other events successful. And that's really my goal and what I wanted to do this. If I can earn a decent living doing it, great. But At the end of the day, my goal is I love the industry, and it was the absolute hardest thing that I ever had to do was write an email to participants, to 1,200 kids registered for the kids triathlon, and tell them the race isn't happening this year. That was hard. That hurt.
Yeah. So with all this experience, what is the common thread that seems to be among the successful virtual races that you're working with?
So the tools RunSignup has make it super easy to make a super professional looking site, make it really, really high end. You can color brand it. You can have your own images with the cover pages. You can really make it your own site. What I've been finding over the past year is that matters sometimes, somewhat. It matters mostly to the nonprofit more so than the participants. What really matters to the participants is that you're providing a value and a service, and that you are engaging them. The engagement is the key factor. How are you creating an interactive race experience, or a challenge experience, or an experience in general? Because it doesn't have to be races. I've worked with a lot of different nonprofits that didn't want to do a 5K, didn't want to do a running event challenge. We were doing all kinds of stuff. We had one that was doing an acts of kindness challenge. People would submit an act of kindness they did each day, and that was all done on the RunSignup platform. But it was a unique opportunity, a new unique way to use the platform and the tools available to engage. So I think what it really comes down to is keeping it as simple as possible while being as creative as possible in the way you are you're processing this, the way you're putting it out there to people, because you don't want to have to explain. You don't want to have to write, you don't want to have to read, a manual, to determine what do I need to do for this virtual race. It needs to be very simple, straightforward, and open. The one with acts of kindness was simply do an act of kindness each day, log on, put it in, and log in, and submit it, and do it each day for 7 days.
Yeah, so
And that
let's
was it.
drill into that acts of kindness, because we've actually internally talked about that last year as potentially an idea for a nonprofit. Did that drive any donations? Was it a paid challenge, or was it free?
It was a paid challenge, and it was all the proceeds were going to the nonprofit. Then they purchased. They had their own vendor for shirts, but they needed help with fulfillment, so they ordered the shirts from their vendor, had them shipped to me, and then I did the individual fulfillment shipping out to each participant. I can't remember the exact number, but I believe they ended up with about 140 participants, but still raised over $15,000 for that event.
Yeah, so they must have had a fairly decent. Did they do fundraising as well?
They did. They didn't do fundraising. They did donations. I'm talking to them now about renewing this year.
Yeah.
They're wanting to expand it and make it bigger this year because it was so successful. And they're wanting to be able to push it out more. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of these nonprofits. The events aren't huge. We're not talking 5,000 person, even 1,000 person events for the most part. Most are around the 100 to 250 person range, because they're just dipping their toes in, they're testing the water. I believe there's a huge opportunity here for these events, especially going into their second year, that they can really expand and push that envelope and really, really do some good.
And I mean, I'm not sure how this nonprofit would feel about it, but to me, $15,000 for a kindness challenge that likely they didn't have any money they had to put up front. It was a pure opportunity. That seems pretty good to me for most of the nonprofits that we serve. If we can come up with some way to generate revenue without any upfront commitment, that's an incredible opportunity, I think.
Yeah, and that's actually whenever I was developing this whole set of survey, because this was a new thing. I had no idea what I was going to do. I spent about 2 to 3 weeks sitting around moping and wallowing. Yeah. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know. This sucks.
I remember I talked to you.
Yeah. It was bad. I had no idea what was going to happen. Virtual races. Yes, I had put some on. But I'm not really in the business of putting on races so much anymore. So I didn't want to get back into that with virtual races so much. So that's when I put this together, it was for the people, specifically the smaller organizations. It can be expanded obviously to larger, but there's like you said, there's no upfront, there's nothing it's a no lose scenario up front. If
You got
you
to put your
can't,
time in, but you
yeah,
have
it's
to
just a
put your
little
time
bit.
into something anyways.
And it's not even that much time even necessarily, it's a few hours, and you can have something set up, ready to go, push it out to, your email list and your social media pages, see what happens. Maybe you get some traction, then maybe you get a little bit of traction. Okay, let's put a little bit of money into it. Okay, let's see if getting some partners or some sponsors so we can do some cross promotion, things like that. Some of that free marketing that you can get out of it. Um, so it's starting small, getting in, checking it out, and building from there. It's not difficult. Like I said, a couple of hours is, I think, what this particular nonprofit spent developing their challenge and putting together the page and everything after we talked. And $15,000 was their single largest event they've ever had. They're not a big. They have I think 4 or 5 people on the committee for that nonprofit, and that's it.
So after all this and over 100 virtual races, well under your belt, is there anything you wouldn't recommend doing?
I'd stay away from simple 5Ks now, honestly. The tools are available. Unless you have a very unique story or way that you're going to tell this, that you're going to sell this event. Stay away from the simple 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. So there's so many different tools available to get a little more creative with it. Create a 100-mile challenge. Create a walk every day challenge. Whatever. I think. Brian, your Activity for Good challenge gave me a lot of ideas, and I was able to use some of that information with you putting that together, just to kind of explain to these nonprofits it's not always just a virtual race; it can be a virtual event.
Yeah, and the other we've seen a lot of creativity, and not everything is going to work out. But we work with the Pat Tillman Foundation, and they do a 4.2-mile run.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got this. His football number was 42, so they've got this number to play with, and they
Right.
can use that in a lot of different ways. So if there's numbers that are important to nonprofits, they can use those numbers. And the cool thing too is that you're not limited by a 5K, 10K type thing where it's kind of a limiting distance to play with the numbers.
Right.
If it's a challenge and your number is 72, because maybe that's when you're founded or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you can use that number 72 because
Yeah, it's a 50th anniversary.
yeah,
I had one nonprofit. It was their 50th anniversary. They did a 5 point. They had several challenges. One was 5.0, so 5 miles. One was 50.0, so 50 miles, and one was 500. And they were all based around the number 50. So they built off that, and it was they had different things. There was one that I think they also had the 50 ounces of water a day challenge with that one as well. So it can be there's so many different ways to put these things together, and so many different things. Even the activity type challenges. It doesn't have to be mileage. It doesn't have to be time. It can be distant. It can be steps. It can be there's other tallies, other things you can do to add up to create this competition.
yes. Your main recommendation is do not work inside of some preconceived box.
Right. Don't silo yourself to what is a standard event that you would go do on a Saturday afternoon, because this is not a Saturday or a Saturday morning. This is not a Saturday morning event. This can be a year-long challenge, with many challenges broken up into it and different giveaways and things like that. You turn it, if you want to try a little smaller, try a 1-month challenge, with a weekly mini challenge inside of it. There's all kinds of different ways you can do. And it's, when all of this first started in March, and you guys RunSignup launched the virtual results platform, and then you added the challenge platform, it was very much, there were a ton of virtual 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, half marathons, because people were still in the mindset of that's what runners wanted. Well, now we're getting beyond simple events and more looking for a story, looking for a way for them to feel part of a community without being, with maintaining the social distance, without being at a cramped start line on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. It's just, creating a environment and a community around whatever kind of challenge or event you're putting on. So.
I think those are good insights. So I'm guessing the majority of these events were nonprofits. Is that right, that you've been working with for the virtual races?
Yeah, I'd probably say good 80 to 90% of them
Okay,
were nonprofits,
that's what I
if
would.
not more. Yeah.
So did you see anything that anyone did that seemed to reliably or maybe uniquely increase donations and fundraising?
What it all really came down to was the effort put into by the organizers on the how much they wanted to push it out to their followers, the people they wanted to participate in the event. There was no secret sauce behind any of them, I don't think. What it really came down to was just like with a this is where races do have some commonality with the virtual events. It takes hustle. It takes, you gotta be out there. You gotta put it out there, whether it's on your own personal Facebook page, whether creating a referral program and putting that out there and marketing that. Utilize it. Email lists, super important. Utilizing email lists, getting co-marketers. Get a sponsor that'll blast out your virtual event. I mean, if you can land a huge sponsor, I don't even, a shoe company or whatever, you can, if you can leverage some sort of co-marketing to go in with them, it'd be huge. I think that's really a part that's not really being utilized is that co-marketing side of things, where brands definitely want to be involved with something, especially now, but they don't want to give necessarily cash. They don't want to give money. So you could use that co-marketing as the kind of the driver to get them in the door. And it also helps with your nonprofit because that's more registrations, more eyes on your event, and as an event production, that's really what it's all about, is getting more eyes on your event.
So did you have anybody that utilized Facebook fundraising?
Not, not that I know of. They may have set it up on the back end. Because what I did, so the way I handled this if I was helping them with their registration and results, is I would actually help get them set up. And then I'd set up an hour to an hour and a half phone call and actually walk them through the platform. We go through in there, depending on what their goal was, I'd choose different modules that we would focus on during that time frame. But always was the donations and Facebook advertising, or the Facebook donations, integration and the fundraising integration. And I'd kind of talk them through how that would work with their event and what they could do if they chose to kind of push it to the next level. Some like I said, some were more successful than others. None of them lost anything on it. It was just sometimes that just didn't click or didn't get through. But I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get any questions about the Facebook fundraising. So
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure on that.
So here's kind of the burning question for a lot of people is, are you still seeing success with virtual races and challenges?
Yes. Virtual races are still, I think, in my opinion, virtual races were around well before the pandemic. They really hit their stride during the pandemic because there was nothing else going on. I'm of the mindset virtual races and challenges are here to stay. They're going to be a thing in the future. Obviously, live events coming back, they're going to have their own place. But I think, especially if you can get creative with the virtual events and challenges, it can really be an annual virtual gathering of people to celebrate, or to engage in participation, with the individual nonprofits. It's just with all the tools that have been developed across the board, both at RunSignup and everywhere else, all the things people have learned, there's almost no reason not to give it a shot. It's so, like I said, a couple of hours time, and you could raise $100, $1,000, $100,000, $200,000. There's the opportunity is just so, and then when you're engaging an audience that's nationwide or worldwide, even if you want to push it that far, it's hard to get 1,000 people to register for a 5K that's going to happen at this time, on this date, at this place. Whenever I can say, do this whenever you want. You have the whole month, and you can be anywhere you want. Maybe I'm on vacation, in Iceland. Maybe I'm, maybe I'm putting on the Iceland Extreme Triathlon. Maybe I'm, at grandma's house this weekend. There's still an opportunity to participate. There's so much flexibility and so many opportunities out there with this structure, with this way of thinking about events and things like that. So yes, they are here to stay. I still have, obviously it's slowed down quite a bit with live events coming back, but I don't think it should. I think it should keep going. I think they should still keep building and keep trying new things. But yeah, the races that I am still working with today are seeing success, and they're still raising money. It's not a, if you don't give it a shot, you can't raise anything from it. So.
And kind of summarizing your belief is that some of these events that pushed the envelope for creativity in 2020 found something that worked. It's a solid fundraiser, and this could become another one of their key or annual fundraisers in their portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could even step outside the mold of annual. Why not quarterly?
Yeah, that's a good point. There isn't necessarily a limit, and you could do things seasonally different. Mm-hmm. And you also can do, if you want to do local activation is a lot easier. So if you want to partner with a local retailer of some sort, mm-hmm. people can come pick up goodies there, which helps them as well in terms of sponsorships and things like that.
Yeah, and there's less things you have to ship out, and it's not just cost savings, but you can also get a sponsor and a packet pickup sponsor for a local area. I'm working with a nonprofit now that's got chapters in different cities. So they have different, I think there's one in New York, one in LA, one in Houston, one in Chicago, one in Kansas City. They're looking at doing a nationwide virtual event, but they're at each of their individual chapters, they're going to be doing something live at their chapter, but mm-hmm. the whole organization is doing a nationwide virtual event.
All right, so we're getting to the end. And so I like to call it the teardown, because if you're working at an event, there's a teardown.
Yes.
So best piece of advice you've received in regards to events?
Oh, best piece of advice I've received for events. It is, when I put on a race, I'm not putting it on for myself, I'm putting it on for my participants. So it's not always about what I want or what I think is the thing that is best. You have to think about the participants. The specific example of this would be a finisher medal. Maybe the finisher medal is not that important to me. For me, the biggest thing is always the race bib. I think the race, because it goes with you on the journey, of whatever event you're doing. But I don't put on races for me. I put on races for other people, and other people love finisher medals. So it's something that I offer, even though I don't necessarily want one for every single race I participate in personally.
So, funniest thing you've seen in an event?
Oh, I don't know, man. There's been some good ones. Just this last one, it was a St. Patrick's Day run. There was a guy running around he was actually running the event, but he was in a full, it was almost a mascot, a university mascot costume, but it was a leprechaun. And he was a smaller guy too, so his proportions kind of matched. It was funny, but it was the head on it was huge. Oh man, with the New Year's race, I guess the costumes over the course of all the races, the costumes have been pretty insane, because even the race we hosted at Minute Maid Park was usually the weekend before opening day. So people in all their different Astros gear. We have a guy here in Houston that wears he's got a 3-piece suit that he had made out of all Astros themed material. He participated in the event, so he raced it in the suit with his Astros top hat, material top hat. So I think the costumes they always get me, and then of course the kids race, man. Watching some of the kids, watching a 6-year-old try and navigate a triathlon, first time triathlete, trying to navigate a triathlon with somebody that's done 40 or 50 that's super competitive. That's always kind of fun to watch, some parents. It's, they're not always fun to watch, but sometimes they can, they get a
Or
little,
it could be funny to watch.
yeah, just watching some of the parents, so there's a lot of different, I've been doing this I'm coming up on a decade now, in various capacities as a full-time race director for just over 7 years. Yeah, just right around 7 years now. So it's just too many. There's just too many things. It's the costumes, the people. I just love doing it. Everything about it.
So this question is your favorite event you've participated in.
Favorite event I've participated in. So
You got to pick one.
yeah, I'm looking at I got my race bibs up on the wall. I'm looking at them right now. I'm gonna have to go with Tough Mudder. Just
Okay.
it's a long course no, I'm sorry, not Tough Mudder, the Texas Independence Relay. That's the one I was thinking of. The Texas Independence Relay is a long course relay. It's about 200 miles. And it follows the Texas Independence Trail from Gonzales to the San Jacinto Monument, or it used to. And you'd get a team of like 12 people and you'd be running for 3 days straight, through the night and everything. It was always a good time. So I think that was always the most fun of it. That was an event. That wasn't a race.
Yeah. It was an experience.
Yeah.
So I want the final wrap up is to show off a couple of your medals. I'm sorry, not your medals, your awards that you make. I call it a hobby job.
Yeah.
It's fun for you.
Yeah.
And then some people buy it from you, which justifies continual investment.
Yeah, just every award that I sell goes to buy more equipment to make more awards.
And you just keep telling your wife the business is exploding.
Business is exploding, and so is the shop with all the different equipment that's in it.
Yeah. So you want to show us a couple examples to wrap up?
Yeah, so this is actually a new one that I'm working on, a new style for a splash and dash. It's all I'm leaving it natural wood. It's a 3D, two layer design. I've done a couple other ones like similar to this that had like 4 or 5 layers. I just really like the simplicity of the 2-layer design. And it, it'll stand up on your desk. You can hang it on the wall. If you want to go similar style, but they wanted it painted. So it's got the each of the different pieces and different layers in there. Going big and going metal displays. You can go.
That's nice.
Something like this.
I like that.
And little hooks to hang all the
I
ribbons
see how you
on.
actually put the medals in.
Yeah, so then the holes to mount it on the wall. Or actually, I've got mine. I've got one with all the medals on it on the wall. Command strips work great to mount these on the wall, and they hold plenty of weight with the medals and everything. So yeah, these are some of the fun things I mess around with.
Yeah, the coolest thing is that you're making this. I mean, and I know you're designing them and running it through a lathe and stuff like that, but it is cool.
Well, that's kind of what I like about these the new ones that I started working on, because there's actually some assembly involved. So it's putting things together. I mean, I enjoy woodworking. So I mean, I've got a couple of projects, some furniture projects and things like that. I'm working for some other people. But the building process is the design, obviously the design, especially with things like this, coming up with the design and laying them out in such a way that you can, make, put things on top of things and make it into whole things. It's fun. I like it. It's a little cathartic, a little soothing to just sit out in the shop and be gluing things together and taping them and holding, and clamping them down or doing the spray, the airbrushing or painting and things like that. So.
Well, this has been great, Tony. I actually learned more than even I thought I would, and I knew half the story to start with. So, I really appreciate your time. I hope others get something out of this as well, and look forward to starting on this journey of my goal is to get through 10 episodes and see if there's anyone that watches.
Nice. Yeah, I think 10's a good round number to give it a shot. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity, and I do continue doing what we do. But you guys keep putting out great technology, and I'll keep putting out helping people put on great events. So
awesome. Thank you, Tony.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.